Hi everybody again. Well, the July broadcast 2017, the JW broadcast, the monthly broadcast just came up. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the broadcast. Some of the interesting details that they put in it. Now, I took notes during the broadcast because I don't want to misquote them or say that they said something they didn't say, etc. But I want to break this apart a little bit. Now, first of all, you know how I am usually when I do a video about a broadcast. I have gone through the broadcast, listened to the broadcast, and I keep a tally of how long they say key words such as Jehovah, Jesus, the organization, the governing body, and the faithful and discreet slave. So this is the tally for July 2017. They said Jehovah 58 times, organization 35 times, Jesus 13, governing body 7, and faithful and discreet slave 3. Interesting thing happens. Usually they talk about Jehovah more than Jesus. They usually don't talk about the organization as much. But on this occasion, and for this video, it seems like the headquarters is watching our videos because they know that we've been talking about God needing an organization. And the main part, the beginning part of the broadcast was, a lot of people have been saying that God doesn't need an organization, and then he goes on to say that referring to us, I'm sure, that say that God doesn't need an organization, are sitting at home saying that they have a relationship with God without the organization. Well, so many people are on YouTube that do videos aimed at Jehovah's Witnesses, and they are walking miles. They are standing outside. They are talking to people. They are going up to JWs and talking to them. They are not sitting at home saying, oh yeah, I have a relationship with God. What we're saying is that God doesn't need an organization like you've created for his people. He doesn't need that. Now, why do we need an organization? That was part of the talk that he said. That's why they said organization so many times during the video, because they're trying to prove a point. But there are many ex-JWs that are very active in speaking up for ones that cannot speak for themselves, because everyone knows that if you're in the organization, you can't say anything wrong about the organization. You have to repeat what they say, and you can't question it, because if you question what they say and what they're telling you, then you wind up in front of a judicial committee. And a lot of times, these days anyway, they are just disfellowshipping people that have any questions or start asking questions about the organization or the governing body or the faithful and discreet slave and all that. One of their main questions at a judicial committee meeting is, do you believe that God is leading his people with a faithful and discreet slave? And then you're like, is he? Well, he's supposed to be leading his people with Jesus, right? Well, anyway, they also said that they had this certain part in there. They're talking about all the things that they do and everything. But I want you to hear how much it sounds like what we do on an XJW set is say, we are working on videos 24/7, because they said because of the time zone differences, around the world, that there's always somebody working on videos for the organization. But we're doing the same thing. Videos and XJWs are speaking up and saying what they have to say 24/7 also, if you consider the time zones, because wherever there's a Kingdom Hall, there's XJWs, right? So we are working on videos 24/7 also worldwide. So them saying that doesn't mean that much. It just doesn't. They also said, it's a privilege to work with our extended family. We even learn from each other. So do we. I learn all kinds of new things, and lots of people do from fellow XJWs out here. We learn all kinds of things. And we're all always encouraging each other, and most of us have a real humble attitude and a loving spirit, don't you think? Well, they're claiming that for themselves. They have a humble attitude and such a loving spirit. They inspire each other, and they get incredible support from one another. Well, us XJWs get tremendous support from others also. We understand the pain that the organization has caused in people's lives, and we're not afraid to speak up about it. We're saying what's true. It said, with everyone's help, the message is being spread visually across the globe in unprecedented levels. That's what we do. We are spreading the message visually across the globe in unprecedented levels. Yeah, because years ago, like when I left the organization 35 years ago, there was no internet. I hardly ever, ever conversed with another XJW anywhere. Now we can contact XJWs all over the whole world in just an instant. We can message them, text them, call them, whatever, and talk to them. They're our friends. They become our family. They're wonderful people, right? So why not? And then they said, there is a great shaking worldwide. Yeah, there's a great shaking, and I believe that shaking is waking people up worldwide to the real truth that Watchtower tries very hard to hide. They don't tell JWs the real truth about what goes on behind the JW broadcasting. What's really going on. You notice jw.org. I know a lot of you go there, some of you don't, but for the ones that do, you notice that they say a lot about the persecution in countries and all that, but they have not gone on there and explained how Jeffrey Jackson gave testimony at the Australian Royal Commission. You ask most JWs today and ask them if they are aware that Jeffrey Jackson was there. They don't even know what you're talking about. The few ones that do say that they heard about the Royal Commission, they don't seem to really have watched the Royal Commission. They have some kind of strange viewpoint about it, that the Royal Commission said all kinds of good things about their organization, when in fact the Royal Commission called the JW Watchtower organization a captive organization where people were captives, and that there was no way of getting out without consequences. You can't just walk away from the Watchtower organization. You can't, because they always put their nose in the middle of it, and they always give you a status. They want to tie a label to you to keep all the active JWs from ever talking to you again. And they do take your family away. They do hold your family hostage. And they don't admit it. They don't tell you that. When people are studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't tell you that. You find out after you're baptized what's going to happen if you change your mind and decide to leave. Then you're going to find out. And that's not fair. There should be disclosure of that ahead of time. Now, if you ever try to leave, this is what's going to happen to you and your family. You're going to face consequences, and they should tell you what kind of consequences will come if you ever try to leave that organization, because plenty of people have left the organization who have done no disfellowshipping offense. They just decide they don't want to be a member anymore and try to walk away. Well, they'll call them into a judicial hearing and actually by the organization either disassociate you or disfellowship you or accuse you of apostasy or whatever it takes to get you into a slot where active JWs are forbidden to talk to you again. You can't just leave. You can't just walk away. You can't just quit going. You know, people have done that. They've gotten away with it for a long time, but come back to haunt you. Sometimes 10 years after they've walked away, they've been sent a letter back for a judicial committee hearing. 10 years. You know, really? 10 years of no elders going to talk to them, or the shepherding calls, like what they say. They shepherd their flock. You don't hear from them at all. But as soon as you start speaking up about something, then you're going to go to a judicial hearing, even if you've been out for years. It's just terrible. Well, then they started talking in the in the broadcast about the Kingdom Halls and the number of JWs today. They said that 60% of the seats are filled in congregations. But you see, that's really odd, because every video that I've seen, or even still pictures taken of conventions and inside Kingdom Halls and everything, there are at least 50% of those seats are empty. So they're saying that 60% of the seats are filled. Well, then they're not really counting who's sitting in there. They're going by how many publishers they have on the rolls, but those people aren't going. There are more seats empty than what are people in there. So it has to be a lot less than the 60% they're claiming that are filling the seats. And they're saying that that new congregations are being added daily. Now, in the video, they consider, that's my cat sneezing. In the video, they consider a Kingdom Hall seating 200 people. And if they are adding congregations daily, that means that 200 people a day are joining the organization. But if you look in the yearbook and add up how many people are added to the new publishers that they have every year, they might have a congregation a year, but not a congregation a day. And with all those empty seats in the Kingdom Halls, why are they building more halls? In the broadcast, they say that they're building halls all the time in all these places, but you see, we've talked to people in Australia, Germany, Norway, the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, if I didn't say them already, but talk to people in all those countries and ask them, well, what's the status of the how many people are in the halls? Are the halls filled? Are they wall-to-wall people, or are there a lot of empty seats, or what's the attendance like? And they'll tell you that the attendance has drastically declined, that there are more empty seats in every hall in every country that we've talked to people around the world. You can go to England, you can go to the United States, you can go to Australia, you can go all these places. They're selling Kingdom Halls. They have for sale signs out. They're consolidating Kingdom Halls because there's not enough people to fill them all. So they're putting halls together and selling the buildings. So if there's such an increase in people, where they said a congregation a day, why would they be selling Kingdom Halls? Why are they consolidating congregations into one hall if they have all these seats that are filled and they're gaining a congregation a day? It makes no sense. It just doesn't. To say that they're making congregations a day, well, they might be consolidating congregations every day. I'm not sure, but then they go on to say about how Jehovah's Witnesses are always helping each other in times of need, of disaster or anything like that. They're always helping each other. Well, ordinary people do that too. When there's a disaster, everybody helps out. Everybody gets together. Doesn't matter what color they are, what religion they are, or what their income is or anything. People will get off their butts and go help their neighbors. If there's a hurricane or a tornado or earthquake and people are buried, these people all get together and help. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, they all get together and help. But in the broadcast, they make it seem like Jehovah's Witnesses are the only people that act that way. When there's a natural disaster, Jehovah's Witnesses are always helping. But that's just not true. Every person in the whole world does that when they have people in need or a natural disaster happens. They always get together and help. So where do they come up with they have the monopoly on being neighborly and friendly? I don't get it. But anyway, those are just my thoughts through the broadcast. Most of it doesn't make sense to me at all. It seems like they're doing damage control because we're out here showing love to one another and saying that you should know God personally and have a relationship with Jesus and everything. You don't need an organization when you have Jesus. Jesus is king. He's in charge of all this, and we do the things we do because we're just kind, loving people. But the organization will paint us like we're evil, mean, and uncaring and don't care. Well, most people find out when they leave the organization that people on the outside of the organization show them more love and neighborliness than if you were in the organization. They keep themselves so isolated they don't even know how the real world acts. But we act as people and care about people for being people. Jehovah's Witnesses care only if you're a fellow Jehovah's Witness, then they'll help you. That one broadcast they had where they went to the Congo and they brought the doctors in and stuff. Those doctors weren't for people that were not Jehovah's Witnesses. Those doctors were there just to take care of people in the organization. And what good does that do? What kind of an example, what kind of preaching is that if you're only going to help your own brothers and sisters and you won't help anybody else? The Bible speaks badly about doing that, but they seem to have great pride in doing that. They're totally out of touch with the real world. They keep themselves too isolated to understand that real people are nice and friendly. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the July 2017 broadcasting. I call it damage control because XJWs are really making a difference and really causing a stir, and they're worried. But, oh yeah, by the way, they said they had 62,000 Kingdom Halls in the world, worldwide, 62,000 Kingdom Halls. If there's 8 million Kingdom Halls, that means there's 129 people per Kingdom Hall. And if it seats 200 people, and there's only 129 per Kingdom Hall, if you divide it up, at 129 people, they're not crowded. They don't need to build new Kingdom Halls yet. So why are they selling them? Why are they building new ones? I don't know. Like I say, none of it makes sense. Talk to y'all later. Have a good 4th of July. This is the day to celebrate our independence from that organization. Thank God, I left that organization. And God is wonderful and faithful and keeps his people together, shows us love, takes care of us, and we know who we are. Talk to you later.